This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Hi, I'm Seth.
And I'm Patrick. We are here to talk about Chapter 22, Out of the Stone, and our symbol is the Portal Stone.
Flicker, flicker, flicker. Oh, wait, no, that's not this chapter. But they are worried about it.
It was a strange procession Rand led out of the stone and eastward, with white clouds shading the midday sun and a breath of air stirring across the city. By his order, there had been no announcement, no proclamation, but slowly, word spread of something. Citizens stopped whatever they were doing and ran for vantage points. The Aiel were marching through the city, marching out of the city. People who had not seen them come in the night, who had only half believed they were in the stone at all, increasingly lined the streets along the route, filled the windows, even climbed onto slate rooftops, straddling roof peaks and upturned corners. Murmurs ran as they counted the Aiel. These few hundred could never have taken the stone. The dragon banner still flew above the fortress. There must yet be thousands of Aiel in there. And the Lord Dragon. Rand rode easily in his shirt sleeves, sure none of the onlookers took him for anything out of the ordinary. An outlander, rich enough to ride, and on a superb dappled stallion, best of Terran bloodstock, a rich man traveling in the oddest of company. But surely just another man for that. Not even the leader of this strange company. That title was surely assigned to Lan or Moiraine, despite the fact that they rode some little distance behind him, directly ahead of the Aiel. The soft, odd susurration that accompanied his passing certainly rose for the Aiel, not him. Those Terran folk might even take him for a groom, riding his master's horse. Well, no, not that. Not out in front as he was. It was a fine day, anyway. Not sweltering, merely warm. No one expected him to mete out justice or rule a nation. He could simply enjoy riding in anonymity, enjoy it, and the rare breeze. For a time, he could forget the feel of his heron-branded palms on the reins. For a little longer, anyway, he thought. A little longer. Yes, Bambi, I messed up that word twice. Susurration. It means exactly how it sounds. A susurration. Whispered sounds, kind of en masse in the distance. Susurration. Yeah, it's a good word, and I think that's literally the only time I've ever seen it. Susurration.
Jordan doing a word drop on you there.
Yeah, dude didn't even have the internet when he was writing this. He didn't.
Just a thesaurus and a dictionary. He had to do it old-fashioned way.
I suppose so. I'd like to think he just knew the word susurration.
With the much reading as he did, yeah, I'm willing to bet that he was simply able to pull that out of his big brain. Rand is walking out in front of this group, and nobody seems to see that he's the Dragon Reborn. They think he's just another lord. Do you think he's deceiving himself about that, or do you think he actually is?
Yeah, I think Rand thinks that, although he's leading the procession, nobody really knows who he is because he's not wearing a fancy coat? What? Who cares?
Yeah, I feel like he's clearly the Dragon Reborn.
About your dumb coat? I think he's fooling himself.
I agree with that.
Surely they would think that Rand and Lan, or Moiraine and Lan are leading, even though he's leading the group physically.
Right. But he's like kind of out front, so maybe he's like clearing the way for the actual important people. I mean, I can kind of see the argument there.
I mean, I guess I get that. Maybe common people wouldn't really understand what's going on, but I kind of doubt it.
Rand's just he's ridiculously tall. He's uniquely colored. But whatever. He's having a nice stroll. I don't know if you noticed, we get an introduction to the horse that Matt is riding. Pips, which I thought you would appreciate because of your dog.
Yeah, I had a dog once a long time ago, guys, that I named Dice, and it was actually, they named him after Matcham Cawthon, essentially. They always said if I get another one, I would name him Pips.
But this dog stays with him for a long time. This horse. Yeah.
Horse dog. Doesn't he have Pips till at least halfway through the book?
at the end. I thought he was with him in the last battle.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, Pips is his horse. Like that's, unlike Jayadin.
Rand's like traveling around. What does he need a horse for?
Yeah, he doesn't like ride a horse. He just walks.
These next couple pages I didn't have a ton to say about. However, Egwene is asking Rand if it was the right thing to do to let the Aiel take all those things. And Rand does his best to explain basically like, listen, this is a part of their culture. And he has the thought in his head, although he doesn't say it to Egwene, like, even if I had told them they couldn't, I'm not sure they would have listened to me.
Yeah, he's not the Karakarn yet.
When you conquer a place, a fifth of all its resources, except for the food and water, are yours.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really fair.
And they didn't even take a fraction of that.
Yeah.
He makes a good point that the Kyrianans or the Tyrians, if they conquered a place, would haul off everything. They wouldn't just haul off a fifth.
Yeah. If the Terrans had conquered the Waste, they would have taken everything that was of any value. And they would have stolen the carts to bring it back, I believe is what Rand says. And he's right. They would have. They would have done worse than that, probably.
Take everything, kill everybody who's there. There's a weird honor in the Aiel. It's a very hard honor.
You know what else I really liked about this? When Egwene asks the question, it looks like Rand's first response is, well, didn't your friend Avienda explain to you about the fifth? Because Rand doesn't know who she is yet. She's just
Who Avienda is?
Yeah.
She's just totally a random maiden, yeah.
She's a random maiden that he's like seen around, but she never guarded him. They've had no interactions.
No, she finds the portal stone, actually, when they're looking for it. But
she's the first to find it, yeah.
Yeah, until the wise ones assign her to be his instructor, there's no real connection between them. Although, in fairness, Elaine does ask Avienda to watch over him, so that's, maybe she's around a little bit more.
Yeah. Egwene says, that's a fine horse. What did you name him? And Rand says, Jayadin. And it means true finder because it's from the stories of Jane Farstrider or his adventures. And apparently he had a horse that he named Jayadin because it always found the way home. And that's what Rand really wants. He wants to fucking go home. Yeah. But he's stuck in this garbage deal where fate is like, oh, by the way, all you have to do is save the world, NBD. Right? It's cool. We're just going to decide what you do with your entire life.
And then you die. So you don't actually get to do anything after that.
And, he's kind of low-key pretty annoyed about that. And I would be too, because I don't do well with authority. Soon as you start barking orders at me, I'm like, I don't think I have to have this job, actually.
Let's put it this way. If I only have a year or two left to live, I may just try dating 3 girls at once.
Hey, man.
That makes sense. It's like, well, screw it. I mean, like, when I got one shot at this.
If you're going to take a gigantic risk, I mean, you're going to die soon anyway. So
right.
Worst comes to worst, you die. That's how this all ends. So go ahead, gamble a little. Die broke, die rich, whatever. You're going to die.
How are you going to break up with her? I'm not. I'm going to die. Isn't that like, when he woke up after the last battle, he's like, fuck, I'm still bonded to all 3. Oh, no.
That's not what happened.
Of course not. Of course not. He loves them. He loves them all. And he's very happy that they know he's still alive.
He probably woke up and he was like, oh, shit, I actually successfully pulled off a polyamorous relationship with 3 women. And it's still working.
How the fuck did I do that?
Hopefully they still like me now that I have a completely new face. Nobody. I've never heard anyone talk about how that works in the future. But
they don't love him because of his face. They love him because of his soul. And let's be fair, both faces are pretty fucking handsome.
Sure. Moirain's supposed to be good looking.
Moirain's supposed to be good looking. Rand's supposed to be good looking. Like, they're both very good looking, tall men.
I feel like that would be pretty weird.
And let's be honest. What's the most important property of a man? His height.
That's not true. Although it is ranked very high in all the lists. Well, I am average height. 5'10". Precisely average American man.
I'm a
Whatever
very
that is, anyway.
average short man.
I'm not sure. What are you like? The breadth of a thumb shorter than me or something like that? I don't think. Is it even that much?
Well, I'm like I'm 5'8". I'm 2 inches shorter than you are, at least.
I had a good buddy when I was growing up that was 6'9".
Jesus.
And he literally, in some people's houses, he would have to like duck through door frames and like, yeah, I feel like it would be annoying at that point. If you're like more than 6'1" or so, you're too tall for the way all the world is designed. We were drinking buddies. We wrestled, inspired him a lot. I lost every time. I literally won no matches.
Rand's talking about his horse, but Egwene is mulling something over. And then later she says she wants to talk about Elaine.
What about her? He asked warily. He touched his pouch where 2 letters crinkled against a small, hard object. If they had not both been in the same elegantly flowing hand, he would not have believed they came from the same woman. And after all that kissing and snuggling, the High Lords were easier to understand than women. And then, Egwene says, "Why did you let her go in that way?" Puzzled, he stared at her. She wanted to go. I'd have to have tied her up to stop her. Besides, she'll be safer in Tenchico than near me or Matt if you're going to be attracting bubbles of evil the way Moiraine says. You would be too.
I love that back and forth. That just like, why didn't you stop her? Well, she wanted to go. Yeah, but why didn't you say you didn't want her to go? Because she wanted to go.
And then Rand just says, because she said she wanted to go.
Yeah, it's like
I don't understand.
You're not getting it. No, but she wanted you to ask her not to go, even if she had to go.
But she didn't say that, though.
Right, but you have to know that because God, men are stupid.
How was I supposed to know that? I'm just playing this out.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a lack of empathy. There's a serious, there's this sort of I don't understand things from your perspective. I don't understand why you want that, you know?
It's like, she told me she wanted to do this thing, so I let her go do it. I would have been a jerk if I told her not to.
That's what I'd expect her to do to me, you know?
Yeah. Well, understandable. Although, we are speaking from Rand's perspective here.
The question was, are we being unfair to Egwene for being unrealistic by expecting Rand to, understand that he's supposed to ask Elaine to stay?
How is he supposed to know he's supposed to say that?
Or she's just being like a crazy teenager, is what the answer appears to be.
I mean, he is clearly a woolhead.
Well, yes.
That's true, but
so is she.
So is Elaine.
Yeah.
Moiraine spoke, right behind him. Are you ready to tell me the next secret? It has been clear you are keeping something from me. At least I might be able to tell you if you are leading us over a cliff. Rand sighed. He had not heard her and land closing up on him, and Matt as well, although still holding a distance between himself and the Aes Sedai. Matt's face was a study, doubt and reluctance and grim determination, all running across it by turns, especially when he glanced at Moiraine. He never looked at her directly, only from the edge of his eye. Are you sure you want to come, Matt? Rand asked. Matt shrugged and affected a grin. Not a confident one. Who could pass up the chance to see bloody Ruidium? I feel like it's kind of a... Yeah, sure, why not?
Why not? Well, he doesn't want to admit that he has to go, so he's like, who would pass that up? And it's like, anyone who would never prophecy saying they had to go? Who would pass up the chance to go to the Sahara Desert? Most people, actually. Nobody really wants to go to the middle of nowhere in the desert.
Egwene raised her eyebrows at him. Oh, pardon my language, Aes Sedai. Matt says, I've heard you say as bad, and for less cause, I'll wager. Egwene stared at him indignantly, but spots of color in her cheeks said he had scored a hit. Moiraine says, be glad Matt is here. You really should have all 3 around you. Why'd you let Perrin go?
He's like, well, I got to do it for home.
Yeah, and Rand says, one of us had to go back, Moiraine, and Perrin wanted to. You're willing to let anything go to save the world. I do what I have to. The warder nodded, though he said nothing. Lan would not disagree with Moiraine in front of the others. I think that's a little bit interesting, because I don't think that Moiraine could possibly understand Rand, Perrin, or Matt's feelings about their home. I think that she grew up in such a vastly different way. There is just no way for her to understand it. There's no way to understand how they feel. I think she's entirely ignorant. She doesn't understand what their lives have been like. What the hell does she know about farming? Or about being connected to the land?
Well, I mean, she spent the last 20 years
looking for him.
Going from farm to farm to farm.
On the coin of the White Tower.
Well, yeah.
She doesn't know what it's like to be connected to land. She's looked at them. Yeah. She's seen the land. She's looked at farms.
Fair enough.
But I don't think she can understand how they feel.
No?
No.
All right.
What? Yeah, and just her life experience is nothing like theirs. That's fair to Lear. She's not really attached to the tower, but she is funded by it. And if she's not, she's funded by the throne of Cairhien for, whatever that's worth these days.
She does have her own estates.
She rich. And she has been since she was born. These kids have had totally different lives. I can't imagine that she can truly understand the way they think.
I think she's empathetic enough.
I think she's empathetic to some degree. But that doesn't give you... that empathy doesn't actually allow you to understand anything. You can try. And she is hellbent.
She's also very driven. She's very, very driven. She has a passion. She knows what she wants. She's always going for it, always pushing for it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
And she's willing to sacrifice almost anything, which makes her feel cold.
I don't think that she understands in the same way, and maybe I'll say it a little better this way. I don't think she understands in the same way that Lan might be able to understand, even though, he didn't grow up broke or nothing. I don't think that she can understand in the same way Lan understands why one of the three had to go home to make sure everything's okay.
Fair enough.
Whereas Lan can maybe get it a little better,
Well, I mean, Lan certainly wants home.
Yeah, and out of, there's three boys, and if someone had to go, at least all of them didn't go, so they and perhaps to their eyes, because Moiraine and Lan don't know how they made this decision or what happened. To their eyes, it seems like the three boys got together after they heard the news, and they elected one, and they sent him, and the rest continue on with the journey. It seems like a well-organized, well-thought-out way to do it. Someone has to go handle this. We can't all go.
I mean, but I don't think that's how... They didn't, get together and decide it. It was just
No, they didn't. I'm just saying that's how it might appear.
Maybe, yeah. Perrin was like, I have to go, and Matt was like, I don't want to go, and Rand's like, I can't go, and so that was it.
Yeah, Rand was like, I can't go. Matt was like, I want to, but I physically cannot.
I don't know. I don't think Matt ever wants to go home, to be honest with you. I think he's done milking his dad's cows. I don't think he'd admit it to himself, but...
Really?
I don't...
No, that's an interesting way to look at it. Maybe
I don't think he ever wants to go home. I think he's out in the world.
He doesn't... What would he do in the Two Rivers? Really? You know what I mean?
Getting the biggest farm is no longer seems like an important goal to him. It used to be.
It wouldn't hold him for long. He could go and say hello and have a few drinks, but I think that he would realize quickly that he doesn't want to be there. I think you're right. He can't go back.
No.
I mean, Perrin can't really either, but he can go back in a sense. You know what I mean? And he does, but to rule it.
He takes a different perspective. He comes back as the king, as the lord. Even though he claims he wants to be the blacksmith, he takes the entire Two Rivers and turns it to his specific purposes.
And he has to fix the thing. He has to help the people.
Totally. Get them organized. So portal stones. He reveals the fact that he plans on using a portal stone to transport them all to Ruidian.
Moiraine says you're an idiot. You don't know anything. You don't have enough power.
Well, and she is pushing back. She's deliberately pushing back on the idea because she got the prophecy from the Aiel Wise Ones. And so now she's trying to be she thinks oh, this is possible. Let me push back on it kind of hard. And if he still wants to go through with it, then it's probably safe. We're probably going to make it.
Rand is talking to Lan, Moiraine, and Egwene, and they have this conversation about the portal stones. And in a moment, I believe Rand kind of summons Ruark,
Well, they're traveling, and he's got a map about where he thinks the portal stone is.
And when they get close, he cues Ruark to search the area. And Ruark has the various Aiel societies that he summons them by name, each society, and representatives of each come before him, and he sends them out to search. One of them is Fardar Asmai, but there are many more. I have the list here. Red Shield, Brothers of the Eagle, Water Seekers, Maidens of the Spear, Black Eyes, and Thunderwalkers.
That's a lot of societies.
So a fairly large group are all sent by their society out to search in various places, to search the land in that area and find this portal stone. And the Maidens of the Spear find it first, and one particular of the Maiden of the Spear has the keenest eye, and she finds the thing the very first. Her name is Avienda.
Talir was wondering, is Avi's ability to read Terangrial help refine the portal stone?
Maybe.
I think it's very likely.
That's a fun theory.
Certainly her ability to channel might have helped her tune into the portal stone and sense it. I was thinking that while I was reading it. Even if not specifically with Terangrial, at least maybe there's some resonance or something with her ability to channel that helped her find it. Otherwise, it's just, a convenient plot-wise to have Avienda, the important Aiel woman, find it so we can get her name a few more times. So he covers up his knowledge of the portal stones by saying that Varen told him about it, which she did, but also Lanfear educated him by quite a bit.
Lanfear explained a bunch to him. Yeah. Which was more helpful than what Varen said, because Lanfear actually knows what she's talking about.
Right, totally.
As much as anyone does.
And I'm guessing that what Varen knows may actually come from the Forsaken themselves.
It might.
Although, being a Brown, I'm sure she's done all the reading.
And the Forsaken aren't too terribly keen on passing out information, but I wouldn't be too surprised.
They're not keen on it, but when it's necessary, they will do it.
Although Lanfear is learned.
What makes them more powerful than modern Aes Sedai is not necessarily just their power levels. It's actually the knowledge they have. They're not like the most powerful. They're not significantly more powerful than all the channelers that exist today. There are channelers that could match them.
Sure.
Logain, Taim, Rand, just for the males, and then on the female side, there's Nynaeve and the Shan Chan woman and the Kin woman and the apprentice. Like, there's a whole bunch of women who are just as powerful as Forsaken.
I can't remember their names off the top of my head.
No, I can't either. But they have the power. They just don't have the education. And so that's why, the Forsaken talk about not risking knowledge and power in the same
Olivia.
person.
Thank you, Leia.
Yeah.
Olivia is the most powerful female channeler alive. Next to Lanfear, anyway.
Yeah. And she's the Shan Chan one.
Right.
There's also the old woman who's a novice in the White Tower.
Oh gosh, I forgot her name too. But she's supposed to have the potential to learn to be as strong or stronger than Nynaeve.
Yeah. And she ends up getting younger as she learns to... Oh, Sharina. That's right. Sharina.
Correct. Well, point is, a lot of powerful channelers.
But knowledge and power is what you need to really take down a Forsaken.
Power alone doesn't get you very far.
Surprise can get you pretty far, too. Moiraine and Bilal.
And we see from Rand's perspective that he's tried to do things like question Ruark about Ruidian and what's about to happen, and no one will tell him anything.
No, I mean, Ruidian is very much a forbidden...
Ruark's essentially like...
topic, yeah.
Yes, Ruidian exists.
It's a place.
It's in the lands of the Aiel, who are a clan, and they are not a clan. And that's all the information that... Oh, good. That's helpful.
So while we're talking about the Aiel, I kind of want to bring up my pet theory right now about the end of the series. When Nakomi shows up, I think Nakomi is the last of the Aiel. And that's going to become relevant when we're doing the visions and the prophecies, and we're actually seeing the Aiel talk about, they've got Kalendor, the Green Man is there. There's that one vision that occurs in Ruidian with the Aiel and the Aes Sedai. And that prophecy is, I believe, key to everything that happens with Rand in terms of the Eye of the World, in terms of finding Kalendor, in terms of sealing the Dark One away. And it's all in the presence of the Gen Aiel. And I think Nakomi, being the last of the Gen Aiel, is actually there to help him make the transition into his new body.
I could see it. She could potentially still be alive after a very long time, but I mean, why does she have to be Aiel?
Oh, just from the scene.
Why does she have to be a person at all?
Well, I mean, she's a character in the.
Well, yeah,
books.
I'm just saying. I don't
She's
know. Like we know nothing about her. She has like a couple lines.
But the way she talks, when I went back and looked at the scene, she's very much Aiel, and she's definitely very much a third age Aiel. But also, they make a point of saying she carried no weapons. Talir is bringing up the point that she seems to have some pipe lighting powers. I think she's a dreamer. I don't think she's a channeler. I think she's a dreamweaver. And if you read the scene, Avienda closed her eyes for a second right before she shows up. So I think Avienda goes to sleep, and this Gen Aiel Dreamwalker meets with her in the dreams. And so, yeah, maybe she's just in the tar. Maybe she's the last of a long line. We never actually see the Gen Aiel die out. We just know that they're disappearing.
She could be a hero.
I've also seen that, but again, the timing doesn't really work for a Hero of the Horn.
That's a good theory, though. That's interesting.
Because she shows up long before the hero long before the horn is blown.
I mean, do heroes have to show up when the horn is blown?
Being a hero in Teleron Riyadh is possible.
It's a good theory, though. It's interesting. She's a dreamwalker.
Yeah, because I wanted to bring it up specifically for when we have the Rand's vision when he goes through the columns, because I want to.
And dreamwalkers can do things that are very much like channeling,
right? And she was there right outside the boar, waiting for Rand at the last battle. So, and she helped him transition bodies, and I think that was all set up by the connection between Rand's vision and Kalendor, which we see on the table, and him switching bodies, which has something to do with Kalendor and being connected to Moiraine with Kalendor. I think they're all connected. I haven't finalized the theory yet, but I'm thinking about it. How do the Gen Aiel help Rand switch bodies? It all comes back to the three unanswered questions. How does Rand switch bodies? What's up with the pipe lighting? Oh, who's Nakomi? Those all come together in the Gen Aiel for me. So he's taking the portal stone, and he knows he doesn't have enough power to do it by himself, so he has found his little fat man, Terangrial.
The Jade Buddha.
The Jade Buddha. And with the sword.
The Jade Siddhartha.
Yeah. He does mention that he found it when he was down in there looking for the portal. So I stand by my theory that it was on the barrel, and that
Matt knocked over.
Knocked over.
No, I dig it.
He uncovered a bunch of
like
stuff, and then Rand came out of the portal and saw it there and was like, yoink. Cool. On Grial.
We see a little bit about that I wanted to point out that I have a little bit to read here, but right before that, Ruark calls the groups by their societies to come and search. And I just wanted to note out loud, because this is one of the first times we're really getting into Aiel culture here, or getting any information about it in the books. That the Aiel come to his call, but Rand notes that they react to him as an equal.
Sure.
So whoever the leaders are amongst these groups of society members are listening to Ruark with respect, yes, but they don't necessarily have to. He's not the boss of them. He just has respect.
And that's because Ruark's fucking awesome.
Because Ruark is Batlan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah, totally.
He deserves to be in charge, and everyone acknowledges it. But they're not bowing and scraping in the way that he's used to people acting in the West.
No, he's just saying common sense, and everyone else is listening to it. They're not obeying him. He's just making suggestions that make sense to everybody, so why not stick with it?
They offered even the clan chief only a respectful hearing, without any of the elaborate deference a lord would exact, an obedience that seemed between equals. He could hardly expect more for himself. Ruark gave instructions in few words, and the listening Aiel found out ahead, in the patch of hills, running easily. Some veiled themselves just in case. The rest waited, standing or squatting beside the loaded pack mules. He sends out searchers to find it, and Avienda does find it eventually.
I did notice, I just wanted to say that he only sent them out because of Lan's suggestion. He sort of had this moment where he's like, crap, we're here. Now what? And Lan was like, the Aiel can look for things. He's like, oh, right. Aiel, go look. I like that little, Lan suggestion that Lan was like, so...
They're quite good at this. You should let them do it.
I like Lan. He's just, very, very helpful subtly by pointing out the obvious.
And Rand has the thought... Not for the first time, he wondered what had held them together so far. And this is after Ruark talks a little bit about the various blood feuds and how the only reason that a lot of the people here aren't murdering each other on sight is because the wise ones told them not to. However, once they cross back past the Dragon Wall, they don't necessarily have to follow those rules. Right. It's not a guarantee. They may start murdering each other, and there's not that much Ruark can do about it.
Well, fortunately, they are heading to Ruidion, and custom, not necessarily law, but at least custom says you shouldn't...
Ruark does add that.
You shouldn't kill anybody on their way to Ruidion.
On our way to Ruidion, which should prevent people from outright murdering each other. It might not, but we'll see.
Yeah. But basically, this that's all we've got until you prove yourself the Karakarn.
You can't. Yeah.
People are not united behind you, and so these water oaths.
These blood feuds are more powerful than you or I are.
For now, fortunately, there's these other restraints, but watch out; they might not hold.
And so I have this little bit to read that I thought was kind of important. Not for the first time, he, Rand, wondered what had held them together so far, they being the Aiel. Was it just their prophecies of the stone falling and the search for he who comes with the dawn? More than that, Ruark said, and Rand realized he had spoken his thoughts aloud. Prophecy brought us over the Dragon Wall, and the name that is not spoken drew us to the Stone of Tyr. The name he meant was the people of the dragon, a secret name for the Aiel. Only clan chiefs and wise ones knew or used it, apparently seldom, and only with each other. For the rest, no one may shed the blood of another, of the same society, of course, yet mixing Sharad with Goshen, Tarad and Nakai with Shaido, even I might have danced the spears with the Shaido, if the wise ones had not made everyone who crossed the Dragon Wall swear water oath to treat any Aiel as the same society on his side of the mountains, even sneaking Shaido. He shrugged slightly. You see? It's not easy, even for me. These Shaido are enemies of yours? Rand fumbled the name. In the stone, the Aiel had gone by societies, not clans. We have avoided blood feud, Ruark said.
I have a question. Do you think if the Shaido if they weren't so prejudiced against the Shaido and they'd been treated better, do you think they would have stayed as allies?
Maybe the Shaido shouldn't have pissed literally everyone off beforehand.
Well, I'm saying other way around. Like, what if they're not that bad and there's just this prejudice that Ruark has, and that feeds into Rand's prejudice, and that causes him not to treat the Shaido particularly well.
Does anyone know off the bat which clan Ruark is from? It's relevant.
Yeah, he's from the Tardad Aiel.
Tarad?
Yeah, Tardad.
It's
no,
Tarad,
I mean,
yeah. Well, wait. He says the Tarad and the Nakai might stab a Shaido at any moment, and then he says even I might dance the spears with the Shaido.
Yeah, well, he's Tardad.
It's Tarad. There's a lot of A's. I always thought, although now that I'm saying it out loud, I don't know that I've ever looked that up. But I just assumed Taarad is Tarad, not. I mean, there's only Tardad.
It's all about where you put the emphasis on the syllable, and I think in the audiobooks it's basically Tardad.
Clan Sharad. Just looked it up, guys. You're all wrong.
What? No,
it says Sharad. I mean, on Watt Wiki anyway. Sept Imran.
He's the clan chief of the Tardot Aiel.
Oh, this is Ruark.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I was looking at the wrong page. Never mind. This is Tardot. You know what? I don't even care. Tardad sounds stupid. I'm saying Tarad. Tardad? I've been reading it wrong for well over a decade.
Yep.
Tardad.
Tardad. The
Tardad
Aiel.
All right, let's freaking move forward here.
I want to get into the portal stone stuff. They sort of have a discussion with Ruark about the portal stones.
They have a discussion with Ruark about the portal stones?
Yeah, where Rand describes like, hey, this is what I saw in the books.
Avienda finds the portal stone. Rand comes up to it. He's examining it. It's partly buried, and he's hoping that the symbols that he needs aren't buried. He's looking at the thing, trying to feel it. It's, a million years old, or nobody knows how old. So he's kind of trying to feel it with his fingers, and his fingers stopped, returned to the bit he had just examined. It was weathered almost beyond making out, but he was sure it was the wavy lines. They represented a portal stone on Toman head, not in the waist, but they located what had been the base of the thing when it stood upright. Symbols at the top represented worlds. These at the bottom, portal stones. With a symbol from the top and one from the bottom, he could supposedly travel to a given portal stone in a given world. With just one from the bottom, he knew he could reach a portal stone in this world. The portal stone near Ruidian, for instance, if he knew the symbol for it. Now was when he needed luck. Needed that Taveran tugging at chance to favor him. A hand reached over his shoulder, and Ruark said, in a reluctant voice, "These two are used for Ruidian in old writings. Long ago, even the name was not written." He traced two triangles, each surrounding what appeared to be forked lightnings, one pointing left, one right. "Do you know what this is?" Rand asked. The Aielman looked away. "Burn me, Ruark, I have to know. I know you don't want to talk of it, but you have to tell me. Tell me, Ruark, have you ever seen its like before?" The older man took a deep breath before answering. "I have seen its like." Each word came as if dragged. "When a man goes to Ruidian, wise ones and clansmen wait on the slopes of Kaindar near the stone like this." Avienda stood up and walked stiffly away. Ruark glanced after her, frowning. "I know no more of it, Rand al'Thor. May I never know shade if I do." The next thing I have is after about 2 paragraphs, Egwene tries to interrupt, and it doesn't work.
So yeah, I mean that's really confirmation from Ruark that the portal stone is.
He's been there.
Jendai.
He stood in front of it. He's looked at it.
He knows what it is. And so then Egwene's like, "Why aren't you going to stop him?" And she's like, "Well."
Rand's like, "Well, what do you think I'm going to do? Fight him?"
And she has that line, "We may be about to see how useful dreaming really is," and that's a reference to the letter that she got from the Aiel. Because if Rand thinks he can teleport them instantly from here to there, and the letter says they're going to show up today in that location, she's got a pretty good confirmation that they're not going to fail.
Yeah. She's like, either they're correct, or we'll all be dead, so it won't matter anyway. She doesn't literally say that, but that's the way I think of it.
Basically, yeah.
"You truly don't know what you are doing, do you?" Egwene protested. We talked about this, but whatever. "Moiraine, stop him. We can ride to Ruidian. Why are you letting him go on with this? Why don't you say something?" "What would you suggest I do?" the Aes Sedai said dryly. "I can hardly drag him away by his ear. We may be about to see how useful dreaming really is." "Dreaming?" Egwene said sharply. "What does dreaming have to do with this?" "Will you two be quiet?" Rand made himself sound patient. "I am trying to decide." Egwene stared at him indignantly. Moiraine showed no emotion at all, but she watched intently. "Do we have to do it this way?" Matt said. "What do you have against riding?" Rand only looked at him, and he shrugged uncomfortably. "Oh, burn me, if you're trying to decide." Taking both horses' reins in one hand, he dug a coin from his pocket, a gold Tarvalin mark, and sighed. "It would be the same coin, wouldn't it?"
What coin is he talking about?
The coin that he flipped before he went into the doorway.
Got it.
The coin that told him whether or not he would go into the doorway.
That's
he pulls out the same Tarvalin mark from his pocket, and he's like, "Oh, Jesus." And then he flips it.
I'm glad you figured that one. I could not remember what it was. I was like, what the hell coin is that?
It would be the same coin, wouldn't it? He just speaks to the coin. He rolled the coin across the backs of his fingers. I'm lucky sometimes, Rand. Let my luck choose. Head, the one that points to your right. Flame, the other. What do you say? This is the most ridiculous, Egwene began, but Moiraine silenced her with a touch on the arm. Rand nodded. Why not? Egwene muttered something. All he caught were men and boys, but it did not sound like a compliment. The coin spun into the air off Matt's thumb, gleaming dully in the sun. At its peak, Matt snatched it back and slapped it down on the back of his other hand. Then he hesitated. It's a bloody thing to be trusting the toss of a coin, Rand. Rand laid his palm on one of the symbols, without looking. This one, he said. You chose this one. Matt peeked at the coin and blinked. You're right. How did you know? It has to work for me sooner or later. None of them understood. He could see that. But it didn't matter. Lifting his hand, he looked at what he and Matt had picked. The triangle pointed left. The sun had slid down from its apex. He had to do this right. A mistake, and they could lose time, not gain it. That had to be the worst outcome. It had to be.
So Rand's making his Tavernness work for him.
By double-checking it with Matt's, cross-referencing, yeah.
And Moiraine supporting them by having a prophecy saying they're going to make it. There's a lot of, even though it seems kind of random, there's actually a lot of fate going into getting them to the right place at the right time.
Standing.
Yeah. And they're definitely worried about, like, all of Rand's hesitation and, like, him saying, oh, that had to be the worst outcome. Like, he's hoping they don't end up doing another flicker situation here, which could be really bad because they lost time doing that. It kept Matt alive during the transportation, but they actually lost a couple of months by getting to Toman Head through the portal stone.
Standing. He dug into his pouch and pulled out the small hard object. A carving of shiny, dark green stone that fit easily in his hand. A round-faced, round-bodied man sitting cross-legged, with a sword across his knees. He rubbed a thumb over the figure's bald head. Gather everyone close. Everyone, Ruark. Have them bring pack animals over here. Everyone has to be as close as possible. Why? the Aielman asked. We're going to Ruidian. Rand bounced the carving on his palm and bent to pat the portal stone. To Ruidian. Right now. I feel like the next point that I have is just a point where Moraine's like, you left Kalendor behind to use this little thing? Why? You can do anything with that.
And that comes back to Rand feels the burden when he uses Kalendor. And I think that he knows there's something wrong with it. And so he doesn't want to have another issue where he's trying to bring a dead girl to life. Like, he's not okay using it. And it's just way too much power. He needs to back it off a little bit.
Yeah. And then we have the little part where Moiraine kind of like, I feel like takes a bit of a jab at him, where she's like, oh boy, you sure do know a lot about portal stones, don't you? Mm-hmm. And Rand's like, yeah, Varen told me a lot.
Yeah.
And in his head, he's like, and Lanfear told me a lot.
I might actually know more than you because I had Forsaken advising me about the portal stones.
Yeah.
And she seemed to know quite a bit.
Take care, Rand al'Thor, she said in that icy musical voice. Any Taveran shapes the pattern to one degree or another, but a Taveran such as you might rip the age lace for all time. He wished he knew what she was thinking. He wished he knew what she was planning.
Do you think he's better at it, having done it a few times before, using the portal stones?
Yeah, of course. But, yeah. I mean, what, twice?
Well, yeah. More
it's
than
something.
0. Yeah.
It's more than anyone else alive, so.
Well,
I mean, if you count the Forsaken, maybe not.
Minus Forsaken.
The Aiel climbed the hill with their pack mules, covering the slope as they crowded close to him and the portal stone, crowding in, shoulder to shoulder, on everyone but Moiraine and Egwene. Those two, they left a little space. Ruark nodded at him, as if saying, it is done. It is in your hands now. Hefting the shiny green Angreal, he thought of telling the Aiel to leave the animals, but there was the question of whether they would, and he wanted to arrive with all of them, with all feeling that he had done well by them. Goodwill might be in short supply in the wastes. They watched him, with imperturbable faces. Some had veiled themselves, though. Matt, nervously rolling that Tarvalin mark across the backs of his fingers over and over, and Egwene, sweat beading on her face, were the only ones who seemed anxious. There was no point in waiting any longer. He had to move faster than anyone thought he could. He wrapped himself in the void and reached out for the true source, that sickly flickering light that was always there, just over his shoulder. The power filled him, breath of life, wind of uproot oaks, summer wind sweetened with flowers, foul waftings from a midden heap, floating in emptiness. He fixed the lightning-laced triangle before him and reached through the Angreal, drew deep at the raging torrent of Sidin. Floating in emptiness, he fixed the lightning-laced triangle before him and reached through the Angreal, drew deeply at the raging torrent of Sidin. He had to carry them all. It had to work. Holding that symbol, he pulled at the one power, pulled it into him until he was sure he would burst, pulled more. The world seemed to wink out of existence. Did I tell you that me and Jules in October went to see at the Academy Theater that we love so much, The Shining, in theaters, on the big screen?
Oh, so good.
Yeah, it was really good.
It holds up, too.
I feel like a lot of modern horror movies are just, like, they're so bent on the, like, gore and the big scenes, the loud noises, the CGI, that they miss, like, you know, what actually psychs me out is messing with my head. That's what I want you to do when I'm watching a horror film. I don't need, like, scary monsters ripping your guts out. I get it.
Like, tying people down and torturing them, or putting them, you know, like, forcing someone to cut their own hand off. Like, yeah, like...
Sure. We've all seen Hostel and forcing someone to cut their hands off. That's
Saw.
There was like 5 of them. Saw, yeah. And Saw definitely had a mental element that was really creepy and scary. And I feel like that's why it got as far as it did. But I feel like a lot of modern horror movies are just like the chasing around and the gore, and it's not scary anymore. It's like, oh, the blonde girl runs upstairs. I wonder what's going to happen next.
Well, and that's why I really like The Cabin in the Woods so much, because it deconstructs the horror movie genre really, really well.
Oh, sure. But once you see that, then it's like, you know, you can see The Matrix, and it's just...
It's
like,
then you become Neo, and it's like, yeah, this is boring now. And then you're just in the last 2 films, and there's no point in it anymore. There was no point in the last 2 films of that series.
The last 2 films were the ending of the first film, which was excellent. The first film, I mean, was excellent.
Oh, yeah, the first film was excellent. The first
was really
and
good.
I saw potential in the other 2, and I can watch YouTube videos where people are arguing that, like, there's a good argument to be made about but it's just, they're not good. They're just not good.
No, I think it was, what was it, in movie 2, the second film of The Matrix, there's, like, it opens with, like, a 3-minute sex scene between Trinity and Neo, and it's just like, wow, this is the beginning. This is awkward. There's no build-up. There's no, like... Also, a 3-minute sex scene? What the hell?
I got shit to do.
It's too much. It becomes porny at that point. And then it's like, oh, I'm sitting in a theater with a bunch of people watching softcore porn. This is gross.
God, that's what the internet's for. God damn it. That's
Do
why.
it in private, you weirdos.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Home theater. Home theater is the key point here.
3 minutes, damn, he's a pro. That's pretty hilarious, actually, Zarth.
Well, he is the one.
He is the one.
The one who can last 3 minutes.
But yeah, I just felt like it wasn't well done, but it was the ending of the first movie, which I loved. I loved that first movie when it first came out. So now that you've heard our opinions on the second 2 Matrix movies and the first,
I think they are fairly mainstream opinions.
Yeah, and you know what? I love that series so much at the time that I was happy to have the ending and watch the Animatrix, and
I did love the Animatrix.
the Animatrix was good. That was a really fun project. A bunch of different studios worked on different side stories that happen within the Matrix universe, and that was really fun.
I thought that was better than either of the last two movies.
I had that in its DVD box set. Back in
I had that from
like
the internet.
2000, whatever it was, 3, 4, I don't remember.
No idea.
Early. I was in high school.
I was obsessed with the Animatrix, actually.
I watched that with like my first serious girlfriend, which means I was about 15.
It was almost proto Black Mirror.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?